Stop the cap. Calling in these, all on me, all up in her head, now I'm in her head.
Welcome back to Youth Pastors Gone Wild. As a fun little icebreaker, our youth pastor used to tell us to go in a circle, say your name, and the color of your underwear. I got kicked out of the youth group at 12 years old. All of the girls, and yes, only the girls, would line up at the end and give the pastor a hug. I refused because he lingered and would sniff our hair. Another innocent little icebreaker, my youth pastor had a clear plexiglass sheet that had peanut butter on both sides. First to lick it clean would win. It was typically two girls. One of our youth pastors, who was in his mid-30s, told the parents of a 16-year-old girl that he needed one-on-one Bible studies with her. When she turned 18, he told her parents that they should date. They agreed. Our church used to make the youth group girls once a week dress up for a date night with Christ, and it was always hosted by a middle-aged man alone. My youth pastor used to anonymously leave love notes in my Bible. He would call me from his day job just to tell me that he missed me. He told me I was the prettiest girl he had ever met. I was 15 and he was married with 4 kids. My youth leader once told me after church how much he liked BJ's. At my grandpa's funeral, I was surrounded by my youth pastor and leaders explaining that I shouldn't watch American Idol because I shouldn't idolize. My little cousin went on a church camping trip with the youth group. She told me that the youth pastor zip-tied everybody's tents shut so that the boys and girls couldn't visit each other at night. What if they have to use the bathroom? Keep commenting your insane church stories and I will keep reading them.
I saw this post. I actually sent it to her, but this post reminded me what the white woman that I did a video about said, which is, if you gave white men 10 white women, they would only want 2 of them. And, this really exposes how rigid, their standards are. Right? What did it say? 18 to 30, Christian, no kids, and no tattoos. Right? I'm not going to lie. For me, obviously that would be all of the above would be the ideal category. I don't really care about the Christian shit. So I'm already taking shit off the table. I don't particularly care for women with tattoos, right? And it said childless, right? All that, but the rigidness of white men's requirements, they disqualify themselves. And I think the thing is that makes it so bad is them saying it out loud the way that they do. Pretty much everything up there, like if I compare white men who feel like this conservative page, and I compare it to black men, the main issue is going to be the kids. Because, obviously the newer, younger generation of black men, they don't really want to deal with the kid thing. Everything else, tattoos, there's brothers that like tattoos, Christian, a lot of black people just say they're Christian in name. The weight, we already know that black men have a much wider palette when it comes to what they'll tolerate on weight, and mind you, like all these things, all these like wider net categories, all that shit does is just lead some of these white women into the arms of black men, because white men disqualify these women before they even get through the door, before they're even able to be assessed. Absolutely not. If you're not an evangelical Christian, that's 100 and what did he say? Not overweight. What did they say? A maximum of 130 pounds between the ages of 20 and 30. And then no tattoos, no children, right? The funny thing is like the majority of white women are getting married before they have their first child. The majority of them are. The issue is that white folks ain't staying together. And so if you're a white man and you want to talk about like in other words, if you're a white man and more young white women are getting married at an earlier age, you don't have time to fuck around. Like you really don't have time to fuck around because all these women are going to be off the market. Now, divorce and what the rates of divorce are and when people are getting divorced, I'd have to look into the data on that. But in the black community, it can be argued that, people are floating around, nobody's committing. However, the problem is that babies are still being made. But in the white community, most of the white kids, most of the white children, what was it, 62% of white children are born in wedlock. 62% are born in wedlock. So if you're a white guy, and you're in your early 20s, you really don't have time to fuck around. You really don't. Which is going to be a problem when it takes you longer to get on your feet because the boomer oligarchs are hoarding all of the wealth. And so instead of you getting on your feet like boomers were able to get on their feet back in the 1960s at 24 years old, or maybe not boomers, probably like late silent generation, you on the other hand, you got to go and get, this degree and this certificate and this, that, and the third, and then you got to pay your dues and all that other bullshit. And, after 10 years, you still don't have anything to show for it. So how are you going to offer the type of stability and family structure that you guys, you're talking like you're putting the cart before the horse, if you really look at it. This goes back to that video clip of that white woman talking about, a purpose, Kyle, a purpose, right? That I have on my couple videos back, right? Where I got the white man and the white woman as the thumbnail. You guys are putting the cart way before the horse because your primary issue is gainful employment and being established as early as possible as a young man. Then you can talk and file complaints about, what type of white women are out there and how they need to, link up and get with you because you have shit to offer and subscribe to your patriarchal, Judeo-Christian, order, your Protestant order or whatever the hell you want to call it, your little house on the prairie. But you all are demanding, all this shit and all this criteria. And the fact of the matter is you now face the same predicament that many black men have faced for a very long time, which is the inability to establish yourself at a young age, at a young, reasonable age. Because let's face it, women don't have a long ass biological clock, right? They only got like 10, 15 years before you start crying about how they're too old, right? So while you're crying about how they're too old, like how long is it taking you to get yourself established? This seems to be something that all these white men are overlooking. Like there's a couple of white men, they day traders, they're YouTube stars, they're making money on social media, all that shit. Real fast, real early. They're on their grind. They're about their business. Boom, and they're there. But you get these other guys that are kind of, they're more in the incel category, and they're bitching about women not cooking for them, and they don't even have a kitchen for them to cook in. They're bitching about women not being a secretary in their office building, and they don't have an office for them to be a secretary in. So I saw one comment that was just like, that brought up the point that the guy said 30, and she was saying that the guy making the video or whatever, he looks way older than 40. And then you got to be mindful of that. Like, a lot of these channels are just white nationalist, preachy points, and some of the guys that make the channels are married and then, you know, they're trying to talk to a younger audience, or, you know, they identify with the woes of younger men, you know, and I don't know how to take that, because you do have some women who want to get with older men. But if you look at the numbers, women are not getting with men that are 10 years older than them. I don't know who told people that women want to reach back, or men want to. I know men want to reach back, but women are not looking for men 10 years older than them. And if you get a dynamic like that, oftentimes you're going to pay the price. It's pay to play. Yes, she'll get with you if you're older, if you have substantial resources. But if you don't, like, the fuck are you talking about? She don't want you, you know, your old wrinkly ass on top of her, right? And a lot of you guys are not taking care of yourselves into your 40s. Let's keep that a buck. A lot of you got beer bellies and all that other shit. You know, I'm just saying, you know what, that conversation that I had, and I gotta stop this video because my voice is just going to shit. But, you know, I'm always thinking about what she said, you know, in that video, talking about, you know, why white women, you know, choose up on black men. And, you know, with y'all making posts like this, I'm like, I see why. I see why. You know, I remember, you know, when the guys were they were talking about who hit the wall, and they were talking about flabby arms. And I remember Cap and I, we were talking about that. We were like, really? Flabby arms? It's like, that's a disqualifier? I mean, like, flabby arms kind of comes with, like, a woman who was big and then she lost weight. You know what I mean? But, like, to speak on it, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's, like, the last thing I'm thinking about. Like, if she's too big for me, she's too big for me. And she's too big and I move on. But to sit there and talk about flabby arms, like, I'm like, yeah, these motherfuckers are nitpicking. Like, they're nitpicking something crazy. And, you know, like, I'm just watching white men sabotage their own shit, sabotage themselves. It ain't gonna be good for white men in the next coming years. With all the shit that Trump's doing, you know, come midterm elections, you know, when all these people lose their health care in rural America, because that's who's going to be hit the hardest, because that's, you know, Trump's base. That's his main constituency. And again, I told you, all that white boy mean-spirited shit, all that racism, all that ripping families apart, you know, all that true patriot, or not true patriot, I'm sitting here thinking about the division. Patriot front, fucking Division 2. True patriot. No, not fucking true patriot. Patriot front, and all that, you know, neo-Nazi shit and everything. I'm like, it's not a good look. And you're trying to take away their reproductive rights. I'm like, not a good look. I'm like, y'all gonna pay for that. You gonna talk about your birth rates hitting the floor. I'm like, oh no, y'all gonna pay for that. Your reputation after all this, and you don't have shit to offer, and you don't have stability to offer, right? Because the oligarchs done took all the resources. Oh, your reputation will be shit in the next 4 to 5 years. You ain't gonna have a leg to stand on. Anyway, that's all I got. That's my video, SWP out. Don't forget to comment, share, like, and subscribe.
On the scene, diamond blingy, whole screen. Check a boy, Louis V. I'm so fresh and so clean. Stuff them bands in my jeans, slap them 30s in them things. Pull the trigger, let it sing. Then go smoke a Russian cream.
Boo, hold on.
Yeah.
Hello?
We ain't.
Where we at? Oh, you want to know where I'm at? We